The village of Khotyn in Sumy region is situated 2-3 kilometers from the state border of Ukraine with the Russian Federation. So, in the morning on the 24th of February 2022, the inhabitants of Khotyn were the first to see columns of enemy tanks, fuel trucks and military vehicles with Russian armed men on the streets not far from their homes, tells Khotyn, the current head of Khotyn United Community. Our conversation takes place in a cozy, bright library. The reconstruction project of the old building and its transformation into a modern youth center is one of the last year's development projects of Khotyn community. Our conversation is often interrupted by phone calls. It's clear that the head of a large community has to stay in touch to solve numerous current issues. For more than a month, which lasts like one endless day, the life of the whole Ukraine and the inhabitants of Khotyn community can be expressed by short before the war and the war. I remember the 24th of February 2022. At 9 in the morning I was going to Sumy, and we came across a column of Russian military vehicles with red armbands. They were driving our newly renovated road, which had cost over 1 million hryvnias. Of course, the heart skipped a beat at that moment. People stood watching, crying. It was a moment of confusion. What shall we do? Can it be true? But it didn't last long. I really understood that the life goes on, and it's a new challenge for our community, for the officials and for people. And we understood that we would have to live under the new circumstances. It was important to convince people they didn't have to panic, but to continue living normally as far as possible. Because when there are tanks, and they were here where we are now, it's hard. And the biggest problem was, what shall we do next? We gathered all together, the managers, directors, the executive committee, activists and conscious people, and we all decided to work hard. The most important task was to provide people with everything necessary to solve social issues that arose 4 or 5 days later. And we knew the next day that the problem would arise. We began to take measures to provide normal life of the community. I mean, we all worked hard. All the institutions worked hard. First of all, bakeries, medical institutions, shops. I gathered all the entrepreneurs and told them we had to work. In a short period of time, we organized everything, made every effort, sometimes impossible things, for our community not to feel fear, panic, insecurity. A lot of people volunteered to help. Our local entrepreneurs organized distribution of free eggs and milk among the residents of our community. They provided help people needed. Plenty of people came to our villages at the beginning of the war. The executive committee of Khotyn Village Council organized a price control committee, provision committee. They performed control, information and analytic functions, as it should be. We constantly studied the situation, tried to think ahead. All our institutions, as you can see, function from the very first day. All people work hard, and I'm thankful for that. They are at their places as long as it's necessary. Khotyn Village United Territorial Community have included Khotyn Village Council and Kindrativka and Alexeyevka Village Councils of Sumy district since the 12th of September 2016. In total, its territory occupies more than 176 square kilometers, and in 2018 the population was 5,526 inhabitants. Today, there are many more people here. We have been to Khotyn more than once, told about development projects planned and implemented by the residents of Khotyn community. And both the journalists and the residents are unanimous that the head of the community, Khotyn, is the generator of all the boldest ideas and projects. In 2019, on the day of the village of Khotyn, which is celebrated on the 25th August, immediately after the most important national holiday, the independence of Ukraine, the inhabitants nominated the head of their community, Khotyn, the title Man of the Year. and the People's Award of Peacetime confirmed the correctness of their choice. After all, today, when the war continues, Khotyn has become the center where they clearly and fully work themselves and help neighboring territories. However, to solve many issues in the occupied territories is quite difficult. Medicine and medications is a separate story of this wartime. Healthcare facilities work at full capacity. There has always been a problem with medicines. But if you know the problem, then you will definitely know how to solve it. We are very grateful to Valery Stetsenko, who helps our community. Thanks to him, we have received humanitarian aid, primarily medicines, food, hygiene products, etc., from the cities of Khust and Uzhgorod in the Zakarpattia region. We give free medicines to family doctors who have information about the needs of their patients. Olga Shamrai, a resident of Khotyn and the deputy of the village, has always been a supporter of the staunch idea to make Khotyn a cozy and elegant place interesting for tourists. The woman has united like-minded people around this idea and created a special charitable fund, Charity of Our Land. Now she shows the first already implemented charitable projects in the field of local law. The task of our foundation is to educate the younger generation, humanitarian decisions, to cherish the memory of our history, and we should remember the land where we belong. Among such moments was the organization of a plein air as a continuation of the tradition, which started 200 years ago, and numerous artists came here. In 2021, honored Ukrainian artists came to Khotyn again to paint landscapes. Now our community is rich in works of art depicting all settlements of our land. We are dreaming of creating a beautiful gallery after the war. Since the beginning of the war, says Ms. Olga, their charitable foundation has reached the international level, and for this she sincerely thanks the foreign friends of Ukraine and her hometown of Khotyn. After all, now these charity funds are extremely necessary to purchase the most required things for the residents of the currently occupied Ukrainian border during the war. Now we are working with one of the leaders in Montreal, Ms. Lily. Thanks to her, we have received $535 today. They hold a manifesto, sell their goods and explain that this money will go to the charitable foundation, Charity of Our Land, in the village of Khotyn, Sumy region. Our foundation was established at the end of 2020 to teach people to make donations for their region with small contributions. During the war, a need has appeared. We have opened a currency account. We've made a website where information and films about our community are posted. Canadians help us. The French also want to join. And our citizens do not ignore us. Some live abroad and keep in touch with us. They support us both morally and financially. We will account for all money received. We believe that everything will be fine here. During the war and occupation, Khotyn community imposed its own strict curfew in the villages, thus people see safe living conditions. Khotyn Village Council, as a headquarters, where the executive committee, heads of local utilities and industrial enterprises, and agricultural firms work as a team. These women carefully pack humanitarian aid, the most necessary food products, personal hygiene products for their fellow villagers. They look for them and bring them thousands of kilometers from the western regions of Ukraine. From the very first day, our community has been provided with both food and utilities. A lot of humanitarian aid has been received from our district and Zakarpattia region recently. First of all, we provide the elderly who are cared for by the territorial center, as well as large, low-income families, families who have difficult life circumstances. We help them with hygiene products, food kits. We distribute diapers and baby food to young children. Now we provide assistance to all people who apply to the village council. The humanitarian aid headquarters is a women battalion. They unload, pack and deliver things to each village and to each house. Despite the difficult days, Khotyn community is convinced that the most important thing is the dreams, plans, intentions and projects that people believed in those days when they were just united in their community. Here in the building of kindergarten, you can hear how the builders work. The kindergarten is undergoing planned repairs, and 3 workers clean up the area. Spring cleaning is a must. And in this kitchen, women prepare hot homemade lunches for their relatives and Ukrainian defenders.
Сама головна задача – це те, що
The main task is to make people feel unforgotten. Altogether, these people on the very edge of the Ukrainian-Russian border, but with the only native Ukraine in heart, believe firmly their Khotyn will survive. Ukraine will survive too.